Hello friends, for today's video I wanted to go through some anticipated fantasy for the month of April. Typically I read off of the synopsis from my phone, but today I have things pulled up on my computer, so apologies if at some point there's any kind of glare or anything like that. It's just for my old eyes that are not very good. It's just kind of nice to have it on a bigger screen. Anyway, the very first one is projected to be released on the 2nd, so pretty early into April. And this one looks like it leans a little bit more into fantasy, maybe fantasy romance, as opposed to the rest of these, which are mostly just within fantasy. There's one other one that you could categorize as fantasy romance. But this first one is called Empire of Shadows. And it says, one trifling little arrest shouldn't have cost Ellie Mallory her job, but it's only the latest in a line of injustices facing any educated woman with archaeological ambitions. When Ellie stumbles across the map to a mysterious ancient city, she knows she's holding her chance to revolutionize pre-Columbian history. There's just one teensy complication: a ruthless villain wants it, and Ellie is all that stands in his way. To race him to the ruins and avoid being violently disposed of, she needs the help of maverick surveyor Adam Bates, a snake-wrangling rogue who can't seem to keep his dratted shirt on. So, yeah, you know, seems very fantasy romance leaning. A mythical artifact with the power that could shake the world. Between stealing trousers, plummeting over waterfalls, and trying not to fall in love with her machete-wielding partner, will Ellie be able to stop the Oracle of a Lost Empire from falling into the wrong hands? Empire of Shadows is the first book in this smart, swashbuckling Raiders of the Arcana series. So, calling it Raiders of the Arcana, because I was even going to say, sorry, Luna is licking my foot right now, so if you hear that, that's what's happening. Luna Bear, please stop. Sorry, I feel like this, she's so cute, and I know that you guys don't care, but hold on. Little Bear, there you are, hi. Oh, okay, I have to record now. Anyway, okay, so if you see her waltzing in or making noise at some point, you know she's there. It sounds like Indiana Jones is what I was going to say. So I think calling it Raiders of the Arcana makes sense. Seems like a little nod. It reminds me in some ways in this synopsis of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, where you have this educated woman. It's kind of cheeky. It seems like she's got this other person who's a little bit her opposite, accompanying her on this quest. So it seems like it's going to be fun. I would honestly be really happy with more things like Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, as I find that, and who knows, maybe I won't even love this one, but it's just hard to find a balance of fantasy romance that I like, because so far a lot of the ones that have become really popular are very lust heavy and not as much plot, or maybe not as much sort of gradual relationship building where it's very obvious that the characters like each other or that they're probably going to end up together or they find each other attractive or fill in the blank, whatever thing. Even though that's all there, you still want there to be all these other things too, and you're just kind of wondering, like, when are they going to express their feelings? You know, that kind of stuff. But anyway, it sounds like a lot of fun, and I am quite looking forward to this. Next, we have everybody's April anticipated release, it feels like, in fantasy circles, which would be The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. If you have not seen anything about this book, the synopsis says, set in the Spanish Golden Age, during a time of high-stakes political intrigue and glittering wealth, The Familiar follows Luisa, a servant in the household of an impoverished Spanish nobleman who reveals a talent for little miracles. Her social climbing mistress demands Lucia, I think actually is how it's said, uses her gifts to win over Madrid's most powerful players, but what begins as simple amusement takes a dangerous turn. She will need to use every bit of her wit and will to survive, even the help of Guillen, an immortal familiar whose own secrets could prove deadly for them both. I really enjoyed Six of Crows. I'm a fan of the Grishaverse by Leigh Bardugo. I liked aspects of Ninth House, but I think I'm in the minority where didn't love Ninth House, but I am really, really excited to see... I'm excited to see Leigh Bardugo doing another adult fantasy. I'm excited to see such a different setting than not only I'm accustomed to from her, but just in fantasy in general. I think that's going to be really cool. So yeah, I'm with everybody else in being pretty excited for The Familiar. Next up, we have Dragonfruit. This one is a Pacific Island mythology, which is really exciting because I think a lot of us are not we're not opposed to there being other mythologies present in fantasy. It's just we're kind of tired of seeing all the Greek ones. And I think an extension of that, some of the Norse ones, because we've seen them so many times before. So it's really exciting to see things that are either inspired by or are retellings of. This one seems to be inspired by Pacific Island mythology, which is great. I personally never, I don't think, come across a fantasy quite like that. And the synopsis says that in the old tales it is written that the egg of a sea dragon, Dragonfruit, holds within it the power to undo a person's greatest sorrow, but every wish demands a price. Hanalei of Tamarind is the cherished daughter of an old island family, but when her father steals a sea dragon egg meant for an ailing princess, she is forced into a life of exile. In the years that follow, Hanalei finds solace in studying the majestic sea dragons that roam the Nomi Nomi Sea, until one day an encounter with a female dragon offers her what she desires most, a chance to return home and right a terrible wrong. Sam is the last remaining prince of Tamarind, but he can never inherit the throne, for Tamarind is a matriarchal society. With his mother ill and his grandmother nearing the end of her reign, Sam is left with two choices: to marry or to find a cure for the sickness that has plagued his mother for 10 long years. But Hanalei and Sam are not the only ones searching for the dragon fruit, and as they battle enemies both near and far, there is another danger they cannot escape, that of the dragon fruit itself. So I think that one sounds so cool. Obviously, the cover is absolutely gorgeous for this one. I don't think I have seen a cover that quite utilizes greens quite like that. I mean, I just think that the cover is great. Obviously, it has nothing to do with the plot, but it looks fantastic, sounds fantastic, so definitely really excited about this one. Next up, we have a sequel, which would be the Hemlock Queen, so I can't go into too many details about it, but this one, the first book, is one that is somewhat considered fantasy romance. I personally thought it leaned a little bit more fantasy, but you follow a young woman who has some kind of necromancer type of powers, and she has sort of lived on the streets most of her life, but then her powers are called upon by those in power, and they want her to essentially do their bidding, to report information back to them. So she doesn't really have much of a choice. She has to do this, and in doing so, she starts to befriend the prince as well as this other individual who works in this area. The magic itself was probably my favorite part of this. It had some horror leanings, which I thought was pretty cool, and where the powers come from and the ways in which people can be negatively impacted by the power is really cool, because it has to do with these gods who have been buried. So there's this religious element too with where the dead gods are, and the things that kind of seep off of these dead gods every now and then can kind of come out and affect people, and all that in the world building was actually, I thought, quite cool. Characters annoyed me from time to time, but maybe they're gonna have some good growth. Now for the one that I think I might be the most excited for. I have heard basically nobody talk about this book. It sounds so good, so unique, so different, and that would be Fog and Fireflies. I really have my fingers crossed that I like this one, because it says it's book 1, so then if I like it, there will be more. It says, with refreshing echoes of golden age fantasy, Fog and Fireflies is a novel that brings together an imaginative world and fantastical cast of characters to explore the difference between growing older and growing up. Why do we grow more scared as we get older? Hundreds of seasons ago, a wizard's war scarred the earth, leaving a malevolent fog blanketing the land and carrying the settlements within it like ships adrift at sea. The phantoms the fog creates are deadly to adults, so children must guard the walls now and care for each other. Ogma watches the fog from the walls of her windmill town. What felt like a game as a child becomes more of a creeping dread with each season she gets older, because we know better. Ogma's town is attacked. Alien caravanners who roam the fog in inhuman forms have come to kidnap the children, and Ogma is lost in the fog. She must find hope, find courage in herself, and find her friends. A novel for readers who enjoy rich world building in the style of Miyazaki. A unique cast of creatures and characters that harkens back to, and then they mentioned some other authors and everything, but just the Miyazaki. They mentioned Miyazaki, and I was like, that does sound like Miyazaki now that you brought it up. So if you don't know, over on my side channel, Full Meta Analysis, I have started a Studio Ghibli series. Myself and some of my friends are doing long discussions about each of the films. I'll probably mention the films also in vlogs and such things as I watch them. Sometimes I might do reviews. But if you're a fan of Studio Ghibli, then be on the lookout, as we've done a couple episodes so far, or at least one of them is currently up. I'm not sure when the next one will be up, but it's been recorded. But I really enjoy Studio Ghibli. I really enjoy how they execute their themes, how the world building is so unique and sometimes so weird, how wholesome it can be sometimes. So yeah, as soon as I saw the themes already, I felt like, oh, this seems reminiscent of Studio Ghibli. And then when they even drew the comparison to Miyazaki, I was like, yep, I want to read that one. So I'm really excited. I really hope I like it, and I hope a lot of us like it. Next up, we have To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods. She has the power over death. He has power over her. When two enemies strike a dangerous bargain, will they end a war or ignite one? Heroes die, cowards live. Daughter of a conquered world, Ruing hates the invaders who descended from the heavens long before she was born and defeated the magic of her people with technologies unlike anything her world has ever seen. Blessed by death, born with the ability to pull the life right out of mortal beings, Ruing shouldn't have to fear these foreign invaders, but she does, especially because she wants to keep herself and her family safe. When her gift is discovered by an enemy prince, he offers her an impossible deal. If she becomes his private assassin and eliminates his political rivals, whose deaths he swears would be for the good of both their worlds and would protect her people from further brutalization, her family will never starve or suffer harm again. But to accept this bargain, she must use the powers she has always feared, powers that will shave years off her existence. Can she trust this prince whose promises of a better world make her heart ache and whose smiles make her pulse beat faster? Are the evils of this agreement really in the service of a much greater good? Or will she betray her entire nation by protecting those she loves the most? Sounds really good. It sounds a little similar to some things we've seen before. Sounds like the love interest kind of fits a certain type that we've seen before. But if done well, I think it could be really engaging, really entertaining, and the world itself seems quite cool. Next, we have a letter to the Luminous Deep. This is one I saw some things about it before this year even came up, but a fair amount of people have put this on their anticipated releases, so you've probably heard some rumblings about this one already. It's funny because I mentioned how the very first book from today reminded me in its description of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and apparently its synopsis is drawing this one, it's drawing that comparison also, so, you know, I'm all for that. It says, a beautiful discovery outside the window of her underwater home prompts the reclusive E to begin a correspondence with renowned scholar Henry Clell. The letters they share are filled with passion, at first for their mutual interest, and then inevitably for each other. Together they uncover a mystery from the unknown depths destined to transform the underwater world they both equally fear and love. But by no mere coincidence, a sea quake destroys E's home, and she and Henry vanish. A year later, E's sister Sophie and Henry's brother Viren are left to solve the mystery, piecing together the letters, sketches, and field notes they left behind and learn what their siblings' disappearance might mean for life as they know it. Inspired, immersive, and full of heart, this charming epistolary tale is an adventure into the depths of a magical sea and the limits of the imagination from a marvelous debut voice. This sounds so good and so sad. I feel like reading through and then knowing like, oh, I'm pretty sure they're dead. It's gonna be really tragic. Anyway, when I did a video recently, one of the From Readers style videos I did, one of you mentioned like, can we have more letters between characters and stories? So there you go. There's one that definitely has that. And then last for today, we have Sound the Gong. I can't say too much about this book specifically as it is a sequel, and it's a sequel to Strike the Zither. Strike the Zither is a story that follows a strategist who then is essentially going up against a rival strategist, and they're trying to figure things out from one another as to what's going on with the person that you serve, and I'm going to try to report this back to this person, but also I know that you know certain information, so is the information you're giving me actually true, or is that false information that you're hoping I'll feed back? And it's a lot of scheming. And then there's something that happens that the book goes in a very different direction that I really respected the courage it took, I guess you could say, to do what the author did. It's quite not what the book seems like it's going to be. And for some individuals, that's not going to work for them, and they're going to be like, I feel like I was promised this and it turned into something else. But I was quite taken aback by how different the plot became, and I kind of liked it. So I am curious to see. I'm excited because it's been quite a while since that first book came out. I'd probably have to reread it if I were to pick this one up. But if you haven't read Strike the Zither, you could check that one out and then read it in preparation for the second one to come out, as it is just a duology. But anyway, that's it for some anticipated releases for the month of April. Let me know, are you really excited about any of these? Are you most excited for The Familiar, or are you actually now finding you're more excited for some of the other ones? Thanks so much for watching, though. I will have all of the information in the description bar down below if you'd like to reference back to it. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.